Hello again, everyone, and welcome to another edition of This Week in the World of Football. This is episode number 292 for April 18th, 2023. I'm your host, Randy Snow. On this week's show, the Washington Commanders have new owners, and quarterback Jalen Hurts of the Philadelphia Eagles becomes the latest, highest paid player in the NFL. In this week's history lesson, we tell the history of the 1983 to 1985 USFL. But I'm not here by myself. Across the table from me, as always, is my son Adam.
What a packed week for some football news.
There's been a lot of things coming out just today that I added to the
A
script.
packed week for football scores. How are we
Yeah.
going to fit this into a show that's under an hour? We probably won't.
We better get started, so pipe down over there.
Oh, wow.
We come to you each week from the fabulous World of Football Man Cave located right here in the center of the football world, Kalamazoo, Michigan. We're here to promote the game of football in all its many forms, past, present, and future. Our goal is to educate, inform, and entertain our listeners with the glorious buffet that is the world of football. All this while keeping a close eye on the rich history of the game. Thanks for checking out our podcast. We'd love to get your feedback on one of our many platforms: Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and YouTube, where we post the entire audio portion of this show, as well as other selected videos. We're also on Amazon Music, so you can simply ask your Alexa device to play the World of Football podcast. So let's begin today's show with Adam and the World of Football scoreboard.
That's right. We have 20 games this
Woo.
week. I think that's up 5 games from last
I
week.
think so.
So 20 games is our new record as of right now. We
Yep.
haven't gone back since Randy started keeping track a week ago.
Well, no, it's never been this many because every week we keep adding another league. Now we've got the
The USFL started up this week.
USFL started.
So that's
this
4
week,
games.
so 4 more games.
And then one of these leagues must not have had a full league on bye because we have an extra game. Anyway, we're going to start with the XFL. It was week 9, 2 weeks remaining. Now 1 week remaining in their season.
Right.
But going into this weekend, a lot of playoff jockeying, a lot of divisions up for grabs.
Yep.
And even we were confused on teams that had already clinched divisions, but apparently didn't. That's just what happens when you love the world of football. There's just so much out there that Randy can get a little confused.
Okay. I'm not arguing.
That's my takeaway from that. Anyway, Saturday was a doubleheader in the XFL, seeing the Houston Roughnecks defeat my Vegas Vipers 28-21.
Another close game for
Another
the
close
Vipers.
game, but man, we just couldn't pull it out.
Yep.
Houston quarterback Brandon Silvers completed 16 passes for 105 yards and 2 interceptions, while Vegas Wow, you didn't even go as far as to name the quarterback in these notes.
I didn't even.
Vegas quarterback completed 27 passes for 249 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Wow. That's how the scripts get written over here, folks. Randy puts in Vegas quarterback and he tries to remember the name later.
Yeah. Well, I had so many quarterbacks to talk about. I'll explain that a little bit later.
Okay.
But my main point when I was writing this down was that the Vegas quarterback had so much better stats in a losing cause
Yeah, he
than the
did.
starting quarterback.
He looked good too when I
Yeah.
was watching the game.
Yeah, 249 yards for the losing quarterback and 2 touchdowns, and the winning quarterback had 105 yards and 2 interceptions, no touchdowns. So, don't you know the quarterback of your own team?
After we traded away Luis Perez, I'm not gonna lie.
That's true.
It was tough seeing him go, so I've kind of been a little bummed about it. But McClendon,
Okay.
Jay McClendon, they don't have his first name right here on the app. I
Yeah.
found him on the app.
Well, see, that was the problem I had today when I was looking up USFL stats. They would have it on one page, how many yards and everything, and it would just have their first initial and their last name. And so I had to go back to the team roster to find the person's first name because they didn't have it all in one place. So, yeah, that was a little difficult.
Jalen McClendon.
Okay.
Man, I finally found it. Yeah, you'd think I know my quarterback's name at the top of my head, but I didn't. And you'd think Randy would put that in the show notes, but he didn't.
I didn't.
But here we all are. All right. Anything else from that first game?
I'm just trying to make you look bad, and it
Yeah.
succeeded.
And with the Roughnecks winning, I believe that officially secured them the South Division. Am I wrong? I believe that's what it did.
Yes.
So the Roughnecks will host a the South Division Championship game in a couple weekends. All right, then we're gonna go over to San Antonio, where in the South Division you got the Brahmas and the Renegades kind of fighting for that other spot to fight or play against the Roughnecks in the playoffs.
Right.
So San Antonio came out over the Orlando Guardians with a 25-23 victory. San Antonio quarterback Jack Cohn completed 25 passes for 302 yards and a touchdown. And wide receiver Nick Holley caught 4 passes for 105 yards, while quarterback for the Orlando Guardians, Quentin Dormady, completed 9 passes for 47 yards, a touchdown, and an interception, while running back Devin Darrington ran the ball 16 times for 133 yards and a touchdown. So a good game between a couple of teams that are, on the lower end of their divisions. The Guardians, and we'll talk about the standings in a bit, but the Brahmas are still technically in it going into the last week.
Couldn't believe that when they kept saying that the Brahmas were still in it after they won that game, and I'm looking at the numbers down on that. Okay, yeah, I suppose technically they're a game behind the second place team, so depending on what happens this next weekend,
Yeah,
we could see the Brahmas in the playoffs with 4 wins.
We could. All right, then on the Sunday doubleheader, the DC Defenders clinched the North Division and secured the North Division Championship in their building in front of a sellout crowd, mind you, over the Arlington Renegades, 28-26 in overtime. The 18,684 in attendance in DC was, in fact, a sellout. Their first sellout of, I think, the team's history.
Yeah.
DC quarterback Jordan Ta'amu completed 14. Yeah, thank you. Completed 14 passes for 188 yards and 2 touchdowns, while Arlington quarterback, this one stings, Luis Perez, completed 31 passes for 335 yards, a touchdown, and an interception.
Great stats from Luis Perez, but not a win.
No, it's weird how some the stats don't determine who wins. I mean, it's a team effort, really, especially the XFL. Stats are very misleading. And then on Sunday, the Seattle Sea Dragons defeated the St. Louis Battlehawks 30-12. Seattle quarterback Ben DiNucci completed 21 passes for 260 yards and 2 touchdowns, while wide receiver Jacour Pearson caught 7 passes for 115 yards and a touchdown. He has been the best receiver, I think, in the league this entire season. St. Louis quarterback A.J. McCarron returned after missing last week's game with an injury and completed 18 passes for 186 yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions. And I'm not even going to comment on the little flub you made there in the notes. Yeah. That's just for us.
You did fine. You saw that. You kept going.
There's 2 of them actually in that last sentence there that you messed up, but I gracefully handled that and didn't bring it up at all in front of thousands of listeners out there.
Yeah, well, yeah, tens of listeners. But yeah, I did not realize that I had to go through and get all the stats until just a few hours ago for the USFL quarterbacks as well as the XFL, and so that was a little hard to get all that together in time for the show today.
But I'm playing a mini violin over here for you.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're going to move on. We're going to quickly look at the standings, and I have a gripe with the XFL over these standings, and we'll get to that in a second. But here we go. We're going to run down the North standings real quick for everybody. The DC Defenders, who clinched that division, are at 8-1, followed by the St. Louis Battlehawks and the Seattle Sea Dragons at 6-3 going into the last week of the season. Man, could we deal with a tiebreaker between those two after next weekend? We'll find out. And the Vegas Vipers at 2-7.
Yeah, weren't you reading that depending on how things, if they wind
there's
up
a laundry list of
they've got to go down to the 4th or 5th tiebreaker.
They're down to the 4th or 5th tiebreaker at this point. So
they're just even on everything.
Pretty much, it's crazy. And then in the South, the Houston Roughnecks are at 6-3, and they clinched the South Division. The Arlington Renegades are at 4-5. The San Antonio Brahmas at 3-6, and the Orlando Guardians at 1-8. And now here's my big problem, and I think I kind of have the same deal with the USFL as well, which we'll get to. But since the XFL is about to hit their playoffs, here's my gripe: you have 8 teams. I get it. You geographically got 2 divisions. Sure. I understand that completely, but at the same time, a good team, at least one, the Battlehawks or the Sea Dragons are going to get left out of the playoffs with an above 500 record, while it looks like a team with a sub 500 record will likely make the playoffs. Even if Arlington wins, they'll be 5-5 to get into the playoffs. So that's a team at 500. If they lose and get in, or even if the Brahmas get in, that's a sub 500 team.
Right.
Why is the XFL not doing a top 4 teams? Maybe the division winners ought to get auto bids, but it should just be the top 4 teams, should it not?
Well, maybe they should do.
If you're going to be an 8-team league, Like, come on. Like, you're leaving a good team out. Like, the Sea Dragons and Battlehawks are two teams that we would love to see
Yes.
compete,
Yes.
but one of them's going to get sent home. With a league this small, I don't like it. It's different in the NFL when you got 4 divisions of, 4 teams in a conference and you play it like that. There's a little more wiggle room for, hey, every once in a while a team with a sub 500 record might win their division and get in. But for the most part, a sub 500 team doesn't get into the playoffs. It's very rare, but it's such a small league. Why wouldn't you try to at least get the best 4 teams in?
Well, I don't think they really thought about that. I mean, this is this is the second year for the XFL.
Technically, but I mean, with this group, I still just don't agree with it. I think I get it. Maybe geographically, it makes sense. Like, so for the playoff, you're even saving on travel there, maybe. But
Yeah.
I just think for the playoffs, you want the 4 best teams. You're a spring league that's still growing your fan base. Why not just give your 4 best teams?
Well, to answer this problem, you have to once again
Call Dwayne the Rock Johnson.
go up to the
Oh.
Canadian Football League, where they have a crossover team. If one of your teams in the other division is better than the one in the opposing division, they can cross over and take a playoff spot because they have a better record than anybody else.
That's because they're uneven. That's the only reason that happens. I don't know if I love the crossover spot. Like, maybe in the past I said I did, and it's cool sometimes, but there's times where it's just like, why it shouldn't even be there in
It
the
makes
first
for better
place.
playoffs, but in the XFL, they've got one week of playoff games, 2 games,
Yeah,
one for each division, and then it's the championship
and
game.
that's what I'm saying. Like, why wouldn't you
So
want the fact that we're not either going to get a Battlehawks team or a Dragons team in those playoffs?
yeah,
It's kind
yep.
of a bummer.
One of them's going to have a winning record, and they're not going to be in the playoffs.
Both of them are going to have winning records, and one of them will not be in the playoffs.
Well, yes, they'll both have winning records, but whichever one has a losing record, or whichever one doesn't make it, is going to have a winning record still.
That's what I'm saying.
I know. I'm agreeing with you.
Okay, I was wondering why are we arguing?
We're not.
Okay.
I'm agreeing with you.
All right, well, stop it. All right, we're
Okay.
moving on. The USFL kicked off its 2023 campaign, and I have to admit, I was very excited this year.
Mm-hmm.
Being Michigan Panthers fans, we had to deal with a very rough season last year,
Yeah.
and but I just think the league as a whole, I thought the USFL did a good job going, in year 1. Now here we are, year 2. So they've improved a lot of things, some rules we'll talk about later. But let's talk about the actual game on the field. On Saturday, the Philadelphia Stars defeated the Memphis Showboats 27-23 in the Memphis Showboats' first game after moving from Tampa Bay to become the Showboats. Stars quarterback Case Cookus completed 20 passes for 212 yards and 3 touchdowns. He also led the team in rushing with 31 yards on 7 carries. He did look rather good in that game.
Mm-hmm.
Showboats quarterback Brady White completed 16 passes for 182 yards and 2 touchdowns. That Memphis crowd was pretty good. We'll talk about the crowds here in a second, but that first game was in Memphis. They looked like they only sold like one side of the stadium.
Yeah, they had those cloth things or those fabric things over
Well,
like the end zone and several other sections.
but even that, I mean, it was just weird. I don't know if that was just because the cameras were set up on one side, so they were just like, well, let's just sell out the other side mainly.
Yeah.
It is a rather big stadium. I'm not sure what the capacity is at the top of my head, but I mean, we've been there.
We've been there. It is
It
huge.
it's a big stadium.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and then on Saturday, the Birmingham Stallions, your defending USFL champions, defeated the New Jersey Generals 27-10. This game was a 10-10 at one point, so the Stallions ran away with it there at the end, scoring 17 unanswered. Stallions quarterback Jamar Smith completed 10 passes for 260 yards and a touchdown, while the Generals quarterback, former CFL quarterback Dakota Prukup, who you saw in the Grey Cup last year, completed 13 passes for 148 yards and no touchdowns. But the Birmingham Stallions, boy, do they look like the team to beat again this year.
Well, I don't know because the next game you're going to talk about
Oh,
is a team that just might knock them off their
was
throne
that
this
or
year.
wasn't that an intentional way to kind of segue into this next game? I'll never tell. But the next game that Randy is alluding to is the Michigan Panthers defeating the Houston Gamblers 29-13. Even we were surprised at this outcome.
Yeah, we watched pretty much this whole game.
Yeah.
I mean, I caught parts of some of the other games, but I really wanted to watch the Panthers game.
Yeah, of course.
I was not disappointed.
Oh, Panthers found a quarterback in Josh Love. who also happened to be named Offensive Player of the Week this week.
Mhm.
And during the game, he completed 18 of 20 passes for 215 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's a 90% completion
Yeah,
rating for
only
those
missed
out
2
there,
passes the whole
which
game.
is apparently a league record at 90%. So, I mean, 18 out of 20, I mean, that is pretty impressive.
Yep,
Um, but yeah, he threw 3 touchdown passes and he looked sharp. I,
he
I was
did.
like, I wasn't sure what to expect from this guy, but he already looks like an upgrade from Shea Patterson last
Oh,
year.
yeah, he looked really good out there.
While wide receiver Joe Walker caught 6 passes for 105 yards and a touchdown for the Panthers.
Mhm.
For the Houston Gamblers, though, quarterback Kenji Bahar completed 13 passes for 109 yards and 2 interceptions. These two teams were so even for most of the game, but the Panthers defense really came up a couple times with a couple of big plays, capitalized on a couple of Kenji Bahar mistakes, and had it not been for maybe some dumb Michigan penalties there at a few points during the game, this actually probably could have been a runaway, like even more of a runaway victory for the Panthers than it ended up being. They tightened some of that stuff up. The Panthers might be, I'll say might for right now because it's only week 1, might be your next in line favorites behind the Stallions after week 1. Let's not get too carried away.
Yeah, I thought, Kenshi Bahar, looked pretty good out
He looked
there.
good at times, but there were
Yeah,
times where either his offensive line just couldn't help him out, or he made some really iffy throws, or a ball just got tipped. So I won't put everything on him, but we'll see how he and the Gamblers improve going forward.
okay.
And then your Sunday night game for the USFL was another good one. The New Orleans Breakers defeated the Pittsburgh Maulers 22-15. Former CFL quarterback McLeod Bethel Thompson was the quarterback there for the Breakers. He completed 23 passes for 302 yards and a touchdown, and in my opinion, was some of the most mature presence I'd seen in the USFL
Mhm.
in the last couple of years.
Yeah,
It was very clear and very evident how much patience, control, and just how calm he was during certain things that were happening during that game.
experience.
And the fact that this league, like the USFL and the XFL both have the players mic'd up, they got the review thing kind of going on. As far as the presentation wise, I'd give it to the XFL
Hmm,
for some of the presentation of these things. But I mean, the USFL in year 2 of doing it, I think it was fine.
mhm,
But I'm so glad that they honed in on McLeod Bethel Thompson.
yep.
It was just great because I think you and I actually caught that game together. We were watching the beginning of the game
Yeah,
because we mainly wanted to see Bethel Thompson.
right, yeah, I wanted to see him
And
play.
just from the get go, when they had him mic'd up and you hear him talking and orchestrating that offense and talking to the coaches and getting guys lined up, it wasn't a clean game for him the whole time, but you could just tell that that experience really matters. And the Breakers could be another team to watch out for if they get a lot of
Yeah.
things clicking.
Well, that's who I said last week I think was
Yep.
gonna win it all this year just based on McLeod Bethel Thompson. And, they showed his wife on the sidelines and their little was it baby girl, like, was it? I
Yep.
don't know if it's
And we didn't really talk about it because we were wondering what would have brought him to the USFL after playing in Canada for all these years, winning 2 Grey Cups.
yeah,
Could it be that maybe his wife couldn't go to Canada? Maybe there was something up there.
I
That's
don't
what
know.
that tweet alluded to that I saw somebody share about him and his family after the game. They were there watching the game, watching him play. Maybe they just couldn't make it to Canada for some reason, and this is a way for him to actually play in front of his family. I don't know 100%.
Yeah.
That's just kind of what I took from that picture. I could be very wrong. I will admit that. But anyway, back to the game for the Maulers. Quarterback James Morgan and quarterback Troy Williams. That's right. There's 2 quarterbacks for the Maulers combined. I want to put some emphasis on that.
Mm.
Combined to complete a total of 10 passes for 81 yards and no touchdowns.
And that's why they lost. I mean, the Maulers look sharp. I mean, those uniforms look good on the field,
Well,
but
they did.
but yeah, they're not good on the
I
scoreboard.
mean, had it not also been for that fumble on the 1 yard line that got them their lone touchdown, well, I won't say their lone touchdown, but that got the Maulers the lead there for a bit. I mean, it was all field goals. It was all defense pretty much for the Maulers. It just they could be a team that I mean they've slightly improved from last year. That's what I wanted to see going from year 1 to year 2 is seeing how do the Maulers and Panthers improve after being the 2 worst teams in the league last year. How did some of the best teams look? The Stars and the uh, Stallions look.
Mhm.
And for the most part, it's the good teams are still good, and those terrible teams might have improved.
Mhm.
The Maulers will see if they can get it together and actually put some wins.
Mhm.
But the Panthers looked very well, much improved. I think the league as a whole looked improved. They added those new rules again, which we'll talk about later. I just think overall weekend number one, I think the USFL looks like it's going to be a fun time the next 9 weeks.
Yeah, yeah. I'm looking forward to winding down on the XFL and ramping up on the USFL.
And that inevitable day in a year or two when the USFL and XFL meet up for what we're going to call the World of Football Championship
Oh yeah,
game.
right, yeah.
Yep, we should sponsor that right now. Let's get the best team in the XFL, best team in the USFL, and play the World of Football Championship. Could you just imagine it, Randy? Take a walk down Delusional Lane with me for a second as Adam and Randy stand side by side with Dwayne The Rock Johnson, Daryl Johnson, Kurt Menefee, and all the guys for those two broadcast teams, and we just watch a great championship game between the XFL and USFL.
We're gonna do the coin toss, aren't we?
Oh my god! If you're gonna stroll down Delusional Road and all you want to do is do the coin toss, then you, my friend, are greatly mistaken. We at least got to do the radio play-by-play broadcast, or
Alrighty.
even the television broadcast. You look like a white Kurt Menefee.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's true. That's a bad comparison. He's way more handsome than you.
I have a face that screams to be on the radio, so yeah, I don't know if I want to do television. All right, are we done with that? Can we move on to the indoor leagues?
Can we pull off of Delusional Road and back onto Indoor Football League Boulevard, where it is week 5 in the Indoor Football League here. We had 3 games on Saturday. The first being the Frisco Fighters defeating the Massachusetts Pirates 56-39. Then you had the Quad City Steam Wheelers come out and defeat the Tulsa Oilers 68-42 as we wait to see if those Tulsa Oilers can get their first victory as an IFL team. The Arizona Rattlers got a victory over the Duke City Gladiators 48-37 to round out Saturday night. Then the triple header on Sunday saw the Green Bay Blizzard defeat the Sioux Falls Storm 47-41. The Northern Arizona Wranglers showed up, and I don't think the San Diego Strike Force did because they won 48-9. I believe I think the Strike Force only had 2 points going into halftime.
Yeah, you said something about it, getting close to halftime, and they'd only scored 2 points, and the other team had, 20 something?
Yeah, if you follow the Indoor Football League on either Instagram or Facebook, Twitter, all those places, they usually post halftime update scores, in a good little. I like what the Indoor Football League does graphic-wise and social media-wise. I really enjoy that. They really keep you up to date with what's going on. And they, like, at the halftime score, it's just like, oh, boy. Oh, man, that poor Strike Force team.
Yep.
And then on Sunday, the final triple header, the Tucson Sugar Skulls defeated the Bay Area Panthers 34-30 on bye this week in the Indoor Football League, the Vegas Nighthawks and the Iowa Barnstormers. And I don't know why I said that way. The Barnstormers is one word. Okay, all right, we're going to throw it over to Randy, who's going to take over the last 2 indoor leagues we're going to talk about.
We've got Champions Indoor Football. This was week 7 for them, and they had a triple header on Saturday. The Southwest Kansas Storm defeated the Rapid City Marshals 41-6, and this dropped the Marshals record to 0-6 on the season. Let's see. The Omaha Beef improved to 5-0, defeating the Salina Liberty 36-31. And the Gillette Mustangs defeated the Topeka Tropics 48-45, and unfortunately that dropped the Topeka Tropics to 0-6 on the season also. There were 2 teams on bye this week, the Billings Outlaws and the Sioux City Bandits. And then finally, it was week 2 in the National Arena League. And there was 1 game on Saturday, 2 on Sunday. The Saturday game featured the San Antonio Gunslingers defeating the Jacksonville Sharks 63-62 in overtime.
Man, we started really pulling for those San Antonio Gunslingers, and so good for them.
And then on Sunday, you had the Albany Empire defeating the Orlando Predators 70-33. That wasn't much of a victory, as much as a beatdown.
A shellacking, if you will.
Yeah. And let's see. In the last game, it was the Carolina Cobras over the West Texas Warbirds 64-62 in another squeaker.
Man.
And then on bye this week in the NAL, it was the Fayetteville Mustangs because they have 7 teams in that league. And that is it. 20 games in this week's World of Football scoreboard.
All right. And with that, we then send it back to Randy to talk about the news.
Yes, let's start with NFL news. And the top thing on my list
Man, there's a few things. I mean, we mentioned a couple of big stories at the top of the show.
Uh-huh.
What could you possibly put as your number one story for the NFL news segment?
The Detroit Lions unveiled their 90th season logo that's going to be worn on their uniforms, and I like it.
Yeah.
I like the logo. I like the look. And when you saw it, you said something like, "Oh, I am going to buy so much merch with that
Oh
logo
no,
on
they're
it.
not just me, you, me,
I want a
my
pin, and I
brother.
want a hat, and I
This
want a T-shirt."
this family will be drowning in Detroit Lions 90th anniversary memorabilia. Sure,
Yeah,
every Lions fan's gonna go out and buy as much of this crap as possible.
yeah,
It looks good. It's a good solid little logo. I know. Why is he freaking out over a logo? Look, I like logos. I like the aesthetic of teams and their history, and I think honoring 90 years, put that in
yeah.
perspective,
90
90
seasons.
years of Detroit Lions football is absolutely crazy. I mean, a couple years ago, we had the Chicago Bears celebrating 100 years.
Yep.
Arizona Cardinals should have celebrated 100 years. I don't remember them doing did they do a 100th anniversary
I don't
thing? They
remember.
should have.
They might have. I
I'll
just
have to
don't
go back. The,
remember.
the Green Bay Packers recently didn't they do a 100th anniversary too at some point?
They
So,
should have.
yeah, they should have. So, I think they did. But it's just, I love this. We're getting to that point now where a lot of these classic teams, after the Lions, I think like what, the San Francisco 49ers, the Washington Commanders,
Mhm.
a couple more in there, probably the New York Giants, somewhere in there. All these teams are going to start celebrating their one, like in 10 years, the 100th anniversaries are going to come and go.
Right.
And it's just going to be absolutely crazy. After the NFL celebrated 100 years, then the Bears, and here we are, the Lions at the 90th.
Yeah.
I just dig it. I dig it a lot. Um, yeah, it's just, and because the last time they did that patch, it was the 75th anniversary.
Right.
The season they went.
Well, I think they did an 80th also. Now
Mm,
I've got my pin board over here, and I've got a
yeah,
lot of pins from all different stuff. I got military pins and
I
whatever.
don't think they made as big a deal out of the 80th.
No, they didn't, but I have a pin of the 60th anniversary and the 75th anniversary of
Yep,
Detroit. I don't have one. If they did have one for
they
the 80th,
didn't.
I'm sure they did,
They didn't.
but I don't have a
The
pin of
last time
that.
they
But I'm
commemorated,
definitely going to get the
yeah,
90th if they have a
the
pin
last
of it.
time they commemorated it was the 75th anniversary for
Okay.
whatever reason, and that was the season they ended up going
Oh,
0
and
and
16.
16.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping the 90th anniversary treats them a little better. But I can't believe it's been 15 years since the last time that this team has commemorated an
Well,
anniversary. Um,
we'll see. But yeah, the logo is pretty cool. I posted it on Facebook and Twitter, so
yeah,
you can
and they'll
go out
be
there and
adding
check it out.
more this Thursday. They're teasing something happening where they're going to unveil something at Ford Field.
Well, you keep saying helmet, but I think it's just a uniform tweak. I don't think they're doing anything
I
with the
don't think they're
helmet.
doing any tweaks. There's a lot of stuff going on. Some people are speculating uniform, but I think they've officially said not a uniform. They did say they will be adding a helmet, but in the video, it's the Lions mascot walking down the tunnel down to Ford Field, the actual field. And that box, I will admit, that's why I'm a little confused. I will admit, looks too big for just a helmet
Right.
reveal. It does look like something you'd carry jerseys in, maybe. But maybe it's two helmets. I don't know. We'll find out Thursday. Another team teasing video a uniform this Thursday is the Arizona Cardinals might be getting some new uniforms. They'd keep teasing videos saying this Thursday, so be on the lookout for those. We know the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are teasing their creamsicle uniforms coming back.
Mm.
So I'm sure those will get unveiled at some point soon. And I'm not sure what other teams are going to unveil new uniforms this year, but we'll probably talk about it at some point. But yeah, that's my thoughts on the Lions 90th anniversary logo.
Okay. Well, that was my top NFL news story, so I don't know
Of course it was.
what could be any bigger than that. Oh, wait a minute.
Well, hold on. I do want to say we were hoping, fingers crossed, for several days that, I hope it's a slow news week so we can put that Lions 90th anniversary logo on the graphic for the
Oh, yeah.
episode because I like this logo a lot. And then these two big things happen, and it's like,
Yeah.
well, I guess we have to put these.
Yeah. The Commanders supposedly have new owners. An ownership group led by Josh Harris and Mitchell Rales, and it also includes Magic Johnson, has an agreement in principle to buy the team for a record $6.05 billion. So everybody's talking like this is a done deal, and maybe it is, but they haven't signed it, they haven't crossed all the T's
T's
and
and
dotted
dotted
the
all the
I's.
I's. Yep.
But yeah, that looks like that's going to happen. So you're going to have new owners, which will include Magic Johnson. Now Harris, the main owner, is the owner of the NBA's Philadelphia 76ers and the NHL's New Jersey Devils.
Yeah.
So, it's somebody that knows something about running a couple of sports teams.
Yep.
So hopefully they will do fine. So congratulations to
Yeah,
them.
but and we know a lot of Commanders fans are probably relieved that this is finally starting to become real.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of them were going. And the new owner of the Commanders is, and they're all shouting, anybody.
Anybody. But yeah, so it's we go from one team making the most, the biggest sale of a franchise in NFL history to the most money an NFL player's gotten in NFL history.
Yeah. Well, I was going to go back
Oh, I
to
was
the
like, come on,
Commander
nail the
story for a
segue.
second.
Nail the segue, Randy. You always do this to me.
uh,
Go
I,
forward, not
I
backwards.
didn't write it down, but who was the last time a team sold? It was like $4.6 billion.
I want to say so, yeah.
Was that San Francisco or who was that?
Denver. I think Denver
Denver.
Denver was
That's
the
right,
last to
Denver.
sell.
Yep. So yeah, I think they sold for 4.6. So this blows that out of the water. So this is the most expensive sale of a team in the NFL ever. Okay, I guess now we can move on to
Wow, you get one lame sentence in and ruin my transition. Thanks a lot.
all right, now we're going to talk about Jalen Hurts. He's only 24 years old, but he has agreed to a 5-year, $255 million contract extension with the Eagles. Now, from what I read, $110 million is guaranteed at signing. So I don't know if you would consider that a signing bonus or what, but and then there's another $126.5 million that is fully guaranteed by March of 2024. I wonder if that's just if he shows up on the roster, then he gets 126 million for showing up
Well,
next
I
year.
think that's when because his actual contract he's on now still had a couple years left, didn't it?
Oh well, maybe that's what it is his contract goes through next March. March
Yeah,
is the start of the new year, so
yeah.
that could be. And then there's another $15 million in incentives for his play on the field, and it's also the first no trade clause in his contract in Eagles history. They've never done a contract that had a no
Hmm,
trade clause on it, but
interesting.
I guess yeah, he requested that, or maybe the team requested. I don't know, but
I don't know. And then something I heard that I didn't really realize is his agent, whose name I don't have at the top of my head. She is the first. She's now the first female agent. Like this is like the biggest
mm,
contract ever done across any sport that a female agent has
mm,
orchestrated. So like that's a big deal that I don't think a lot of people are talking about.
yeah, I didn't hear that.
Um, I just think that's fascinating. So good for her, good for his team, good for Jalen Hurts. I mean, get paid, get your money. The kid is a remarkable young talent. I wasn't sure about him the first couple years in the league. I thought he'd be a flash in the pan and would probably just, like many of the quarterbacks that come out, just, you know, dissolve into obscurity. But he looked great. He got his team to the Super Bowl, and you can't deny he is a talented player that definitely made a difference for that team when he was on that field. And when he wasn't on the field, his absence was felt. Uh, do you think he deserved it? I mean, this is that carousel that we see every couple of years. Or there's going to
Right.
be a new highest paid
Yep.
quarterback. You got Joe Burrow waiting. You got um, the kid in Los Angeles waiting to get paid. Justin Herbert waiting to get paid. So you know that those guys are going to get probably more than Jalen Hurts because that's how it goes. But the name everybody's been waiting on, Lamar Jackson. What does
Yep.
this do to him?
Yeah, you mentioned Lamar Jackson, and all you hear is crickets. There's nothing going on. What is he thinking about Jalen Hurts getting this big contract with
Before he even gets
all this money
Yeah,
guaranteed at
Jalen
one
Hurts
point
been
or
in the league
another?
2 or 3 years, gets this big contract, and here's Lamar sitting here just like,
Yep.
where's mine?
Yeah,
But in fairness, now Jalen's got a Super Bowl appearance. Lamar doesn't.
that's true.
There's so much here that's it's interesting that I don't know if it hurts Lamar's negotiating power or not. I'm sure he'll still get paid, and apparently there was a deal on the table that he would have made. I think what Hertz is set to make like what 51 a year on
I
average or
don't
something.
know.
I don't know all the numbers. It's all out there. You guys can find it. But that he might have turned down. I'm talking about Lamar might have turned down 50 mil a year, like not 51 million, but he turned down a 3 year like $50 million a year deal, which would have been absolutely insane.
Hmm.
But and I think he was at one point was guaranteed more money than what Hertz is doing, and still turned it down. So I'm very curious to see how this Lamar situation gets resolved after what Jalen Hurts is getting, and then we still don't know if Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert are going to exceed that. So,
Well, all I
ugh,
can say is Lamar Jackson. You should find out who lady agent's name is and see if you can get her business card. Give her a call.
Yeah, sounds like it, man. If she can orchestrate this kind of deal, I'd say yes, please.
Yeah.
I'll shoot anybody could take a little bit less than what Jalen's making and should still be happy. Come on, guys, it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah. And finally, in NFL news, something that just came out a little while ago, Bills safety Jamar Hamlin has been.
Damar, you misspelled that.
Did
Oh
I? Oh,
man,
I did write Jamar, didn't I?
Damar
Damar
Hamlin.
Hamlin. Sorry.
Who is
I
Jamar
apologize.
Hamblin? Wow,
Hey, I was in a rush when I wrote this stuff down.
clearly Jamar Hamblin. Wow.
Bills safety Damar Hamlin has been cleared to resume football activities, according to the team's general manager, Brandon Beane.
This is great news.
It is, but boy, if I were him, I'd be taking it slow.
Maybe he is. I mean,
I hope he takes it slow.
we'll see. I mean, I'm sure he'll get sparing, play during the training camp and going forward, and everybody will be watching him. And
Yeah.
that first game back, no matter what city he's in, you're gonna see a sea of the number 3.
Mhm.
I think that's gonna be exciting if and when he gets back out on the field. I mean, while he's been cleared, is it something he wants to do? Is it something he doesn't? Maybe now that he's kind of become more of a social activist kind of thing recently, like we talked a couple weeks ago about him going to see the president and getting this bill pushed through Congress or
Yep, getting
the House. Yeah,
defibrillators in high
yeah,
schools and
like
middle
what a
schools.
what a purpose that is
Yep.
so much greater than football. But at the same time, football is a great platform for that kind of thing that he ended up doing.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, those circumstances got him to that point, of being on the field the way that went down. But still, very, very cool that he could take that and then build that platform to get that out there and that he's following through. Damar Hamlin, kudos to you. And whatever you decide to do, I'm
Yeah.
anxious to see what it is.
Yeah. No, I think it's great that he's been cleared, medically.
Of
I
course.
I think I heard something about 3 different doctors
Oh,
checked him out,
I'm
and
sure they
and they
had.
all.
Oh, I'm sure they had to cover their
Oh, yeah,
butts for
yeah.
insurance purposes too.
So yeah, 3 different doctors said, you know what, he's good to go. He's fine now. He can go back to doing whatever he wants to do. So good for him. All right, a little bit of IFL news. The Indoor Football League announced that CBS Sports will air the next 3 IFL championship games. This year's game is going to be played on August 5th in Las Vegas. So, I mean, that's a good thing for the IFL. I don't
Yeah,
know if
that's
they've ever
very.
had a national TV
I don't know if they have either.
deal for their championship game, but they do now and for the next 3
I
years.
think they were doing like that stadium network, but I don't know how national that
Yeah,
was.
streaming networks are fine, but I still think you have to put it on regular old TV at least for the championship game.
And CBS
Whoever you
Sports is a
are.
good step. The Arena League was
Yeah.
on there for a little
Yep.
bit.
CBS Sports is fine. NBC Sports,
Yeah,
Fox, whatever. They're all good.
and
So.
I think they also re-upped their sponsorship deal with or whatever that sponsorship is that is with championship game now. I forget what
Oh,
it
the
is.
Dollar General.
Yeah,
Because their championship game is called the Dollar
the
General.
national championship.
Yeah, national championship game for the IFL. So good for them. Good for them. Look forward to watching the championship games on regular
On
TV.
real TV.
Yeah, yeah. I like watching TV, not my computer. Oh, let's see. USFL news. There's a couple of new rules for this season. Kickoffs were moved back from the 25-yard line to the 20-yard line, which we kind of saw that this weekend. They said they wanted more kickoffs. They like the kickoffs, but they want to make things a little bit safer. So they tweaked a few things, but the main thing is that they moved it back 5 yards. So
It was interesting. I had no
less
problem with it.
touchbacks.
It just less touchbacks, and I mean the ball seemed to be brought out to midfield quite a bit. So it kind of did lead to more opportunities like from the get go. Getting down and scoring fast. So we'll see if that how that trend continues.
Yeah, they said that last year they had 80% of their kickoffs returned, and this year they're shooting for 90% being actually returned and less, touchbacks, balls going into the end zone. And then speaking of the end zone, a ball, this is one of the other new rules, a ball that is fumbled out of the end zone no longer results in a touchback for the opposing team. And this makes a lot of sense. The NFL should adopt this immediately. The ball will be placed at the spot of the fumble, and the offense retains possession because that never made sense. If a ball gets
Right.
fumbled out of the end zone, it goes over to the other team. That makes no sense at all.
Yeah, I like this rule. I like
Yeah.
this one a lot. I think this is one that's been brought up for a while, even before the USFL changed it.
Hmm. I mean, that's the way it is if it's in the field of play. If it's fumbled out of bounds, you keep the ball, but it
Right.
goes wherever, you know.
Why all of a sudden, if no team is able to get possession of it and it just goes out the end zone, why should the other team get it?
Yeah.
They didn't deserve to get it.
Yep. Yep. This makes sense. So I like those two new rules, and then they've done some other tweaking. Something about on punts. The gunners have to stay inside the numbers. They can't be so close to the sidelines.
Sideline.
They have to stay in closer, and there's a few other things that they've kind of tweaked. Again, I posted a video that came out from the
Yeah,
USFL explaining all
good
these
little
rules.
video.
They can explain it better than I can, so you can go to our Facebook and Twitter feeds and check out that video from the USFL. It was very good. Also, we were just talking about this a few days ago that hadn't seen an app for the USFL yet, and the day of the first games, boom, there's an app for the USFL. So I think you and I both already downloaded it. It's not too bad. You can follow the games, and it's got some highlights on there. And when they first popped up, there was nothing to talk about. You had a page for each team or whatever.
Right.
But now that you've got games that have been played, yeah, you've got stats, you've
You
got.
got highlights. They got articles. Like right now, they got their power rankings
Mhm.
after week one. They got the score. They tell you the upcoming games at the top of the screen and what network you can find them on. So it is a uh, good little app.
Mhm.
Typical sports app.
Yep.
Nothing too special, but it's nice if you're a USFL fan and you just want to.
Right.
Oh, let's check the times for those games. You have it right there to jump
Yeah.
to.
Yeah. And finally, in USFL news, the USFL has signed a deal with Upper Deck Trading Cards for exclusive player card rights for the league. They already talked about putting out some 3 card packs of players and whatnot. Boy, I really used to be into playing cards, collected a lot of them, especially, like USFL cards. I've got some USFL cards from the 80s. I don't have a complete set, and I really wish I did, but I've got a number of cards there. Got some cards from other leagues, so I'm definitely going to be looking for these upper deck cards for the USFL this year.
Mhm.
Get a few Michigan Panthers cards, maybe a McLeod Bethel Thompson. There's some autograph cards, and I forget what I was reading, but if you collect the entire set, which I don't know if it's like I don't know how many cards are in the set, but
Mhm.
you get in a drawing for something
Wow.
from the league. So yeah, there's more
So how
information
many
on that.
stores are you gonna start scouring for these? Because when the AAF came out with their cards, that oh my god, were you a fiend hitting up every like local supermarket like
Yeah.
Meijer and
Oh yeah, I did.
Walmart and
Yep.
sports card shops.
I
You were all over the place. You were on
if
the internet looking for
if
boxes.
I don't have a complete set, I'm pretty darn close to having a complete set. And I did find the Johnny Manziel card. So I have my Johnny Manziel
That was like
Memphis
that came
Express.
later.
It did, yeah, because he got thrown in late in the season, which didn't even finish. But yeah, he came in for the last game or two. But um, yeah, so I'm looking forward to getting back into card collecting and looking for these new USFL cards that
Oh god.
have come
Getting
out.
back into card collecting? Oh man. Let me tell you a story about card collecting Randy. It is not a sight to be seen.
Yeah, I've gone a little overboard
You
sometimes.
you've been really good the last few years. I remember when we were just so obsessed with cards. We used to go to we have a local card shop we used
Yep,
to go to all the time.
yep.
Good little shop. They're still there and good people over there, but we just don't go as much anymore and
No, I've kind
we
of
used
gotten
to
out of
have
it.
well still technically in a closet behind me here in the World of Football Man Cave is probably my card collection just
Could be.
sitting in an old box somewhere that I haven't looked at in years.
Well, you buy them, but I don't like to leave them in boxes. I like to
No.
put them in the
You put them
plastic
you put them
pages,
in the
9
nice
per page,
plastics.
so you can flip through them
Yeah.
and look at them, read the
I
front,
do
read the
too, because
back.
I will admit, I think I also bought some of the AAF cards too and have my own set that's not complete. I definitely don't have a Johnny Manziel one like you do.
And I used to every year, if nothing else, I would go to the local card shop and look for some of the new Lions rookies.
Yeah.
But I haven't even done that in the last few
Yeah,
years.
it's tough. I'm
But
definitely not as into card collecting as I
no,
used to. I mean, every once in a while, if I see something that looks so really cool, and I was like, oh man, look at that Matthew Stafford card with a piece of jersey in there
yep.
for only like $25. Oh, I'd do it. Or like a like a classic Barry Sanders looking one. with an autograph that you're not sure is really Barry Sanders or not, I'd think
No,
about it.
I don't do too many autographs.
Usually the novelty ones or like these special league ones that like come in like when the Arena League came out with that was like one of
Yep.
the other last big card sets we
Yeah.
definitely were obsessed over.
Yep.
But I think an XFL one or this USFL one, yeah, give me a pack. Those would be cool to collect.
Yep. God, I was just at the store this morning and not at the card store, but I was at a grocery store
Yeah.
that also has cards and stuff
The
at it.
local Meyer, as we
Yeah.
call it in the Midwest.
Yeah.
That's our go-to.
And I didn't even think to look to see if they had any of these cards yet. So
Oh, I doubt it.
I'll
I'm
be
sure you'll know.
I'll be looking now.
Start getting your pre-order in on Amazon. Actually, I'm gonna look right now
Yeah,
and
but
see if
that
they're on
ruins
Amazon.
the excitement of going to a store,
What?
coming around the corner and seeing the packs there and just grabbing 4 or 5 of them.
You know what? Nothing satisfies me more than getting the actual cards instead of having to stress out about finding them.
Internet is just way too easy. You got to put some footwork in and
Oh, put some footwork
yeah.
in. Let's see. I'm not seeing anything on Amazon yet. So, but here's a 132 cards with a Matthew Stafford and a Rams jersey on the box.
Can't do it.
Can't do
I
it.
can't do it. I just can't do it. Well, maybe one in a couple years.
Here's
but
some
we'll see.
old. Oh, here you go. 1984, and as we go off on a tangent, 1984 Topps USFL Football Factory set, which includes 132 cards.
All right, that's the one I
And
wanted.
rookie cards of Jim Kelly, Reggie White, Steve Young, Herschel Walker, and many more. Guess how much this is going for with gee, color me shocked when it says there's only one left in stock. That's how they get you. How much you
I
think
think
that is?
at one time, many years ago, when I was looking at them, it was like $125 for the complete set.
Okay, for the complete set, Randy, you say $100. I'm going to say go up.
Well, it was 125
Okay,
is what I remember.
keep going up.
And that was years ago. $500.
Keep going up.
What? No way.
Keep going up.
$1,000?
A little lower.
Oh, okay, so it's less than $1,000.
$799 and a $99.99 delivery fee.
I should have paid the 125 years ago.
You should have. You fool.
All right, let's move on from card talk.
Oh my God, how is that not I'm sure that's a podcast out there. Hey, welcome to Card Talk.
I used to love Card Talk. Those two guys from New Jersey. Oh my God.
You know what? Let's just throw it out there.
public radio
If there's anybody who wants to do Card Talk, give us an email. We'll give you a segment on the show to just do football Card Talk.
All
Frick
right,
and Frack, the Card Talk brothers.
There you go. I used to listen to those all the time when I was driving across the country to go see a football grave or something.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. College football news. Simon Fraser University's Football Alumni Association has filed an injunction last week against the school, saying that the school is in breach of contract between the school itself and its student athletes. The injunction was filed on behalf of 5 current players who seek to undo the university's decision to cancel the 2023 season, which players and alumni criticized because the school's contract with the Division II Lone Star Conference is still active until 2024. That makes sense. I didn't know this when I first heard about this. All I knew was that the Simon Fraser football team from British Columbia, Canada, was the only college team in Canada playing NCAA football. They were playing at the Division II level, and they said they didn't have anywhere to play this year, but evidently they still have a valid contract to play at the Division II level in the United States this year, but the school decided we're not going to field a team this year. So, they still have a valid contract. The commissioner came out last week of the CFL saying that he wanted the team to be accepted into the U Sports, which is Canada's version of the NCAA, play up there. So this is still ongoing, and they say that this is going to be looked at by the British Columbia Supreme Court to see if they have a case or if they're going to take it up.
What a weird, just developing story every week.
Yeah, we've kind of been following Simon Fraser for a while because they are the only Canadian team playing in the NCAA, and it was a shock to everybody a few weeks ago when they canceled their season for next year. So I don't know. Like I said, it's still an ongoing story. We'll have more updates on this as we find out what's going on in the next couple of weeks. Another story, you brought this one to my attention. Former Ohio State head coach Urban Myers, who coached Ohio State from 2012 to 2018, has said that he at one time had a coach whose only job was to watch Michigan football games year round. Uh, and and in doing that, he proceeded to go 7-0 against Michigan. And this was uh, from Barstool Sports.
Yeah, it
That
was a
came
video,
from that.
like a little
Yeah, it showed him
thing. He just
talking at something at Ohio State. He was
yeah,
there for some reunion, something, I don't know what it was.
it's probably during their spring game,
Could have been.
but yeah, I just thought this was fascinating. I'm sure it had to extend from just beyond the watching the games, but more like okay, player transactions.
Yep.
All that's
Anything they
could
did,
you imagine?
they
That's
had
your
somebody
job.
knowing exactly what Michigan was
You're
doing.
a secret Michigan fan, but you report to Ohio State. Like you keep track of everything they do.
I wonder if he actually went to the games, and just bought a ticket and
I'm
sat in the stands.
I'm sure they hooked him up with a sweet just streaming package to watch every single Michigan game.
Could be.
Oh boy. But I mean, it makes sense.
It does.
I mean, a lot of teams do that. You have somebody who's just meticulously just watching and critiquing and coming up with notes
Mhm.
on one team, like homework every week is what did Michigan do this week?
Yeah, I remember reading many years ago. It might have been a book on Pop Warner where he was coaching a team, and he didn't coach the team one particular week because he knew that his team was going to win. So he went to another state and watched their rivals or their opponents for the next week, so that he knew what was going on with that other team. So he let his assistant coaches coach the team. So I think that sort of thing has been happening forever.
Oh yeah.
But to have a dedicated coach that all you do is give me information on Michigan.
I would love to see that business card for that dude. Like it's got the big Ohio State logo embossed on it. And
Michigan
then
coordinator.
underneath Joe Schmo, Michigan Observer.
Yeah.
Head Michigan Observer.
There you go.
Some cool title I'm sure they gave
Yep.
him to put on the books.
And speaking of Ohio State, over 75,000 fans attended their spring game this past weekend.
Spring game. Yeah, I don't get that. Like you go to the Western Michigan spring game, it can be fun. But like for these bigger schools, I guess I just don't get it.
Yeah.
I guess it's like going to watch the Lions at training camp, but like still, but that at this point though, it's April. And your
Right.
team ain't gonna field until September.
Right.
You got 4 months. Some of these guys might not even make the team. What are you getting invested in right now? It's crazy to me.
Well, I think it's
But they
because
pack those stadiums like them in Alabama just pack those stadiums for a spring game.
Well, I think some of these fans they're so dying to see some football because they haven't seen anything since the Super Bowl. Evidently, they don't know about the XFL, the USFL, the
They
Indoor
clearly don't
Football
listen
League,
to
the
the World of
National
Football podcast, where we talk nothing but football
Yeah,
all year round.
it calms down your football jitters when you think there's no football going on. You couldn't be more wrong. There's always football going on. There's never a break, and we're here to bring it to you. So yeah, listen to us for a while. It'll calm you down.
Do you have the football itch? We are doctor prescribed.
We've got what your rash is looking for.
Wow. We'll work on it. We'll workshop it.
Yeah. All right. And finally, in college news, future Texas quarterback, Arch Manning, supposedly has the richest name, image, and likeness contract in all of college football, and it's valued at $3.8 million. The kid's only 17 years old right now. So my question is he getting paid now at the age of 17, or does this maybe kick in once the college football season starts, and by then he should be 18 years
I'm
old?
sure when he's actually 18 or whenever he's part of the university.
But I think he might have played or suited up for the spring game.
He did.
In
Yeah,
Texas.
he was in his Texas uniform.
So I mean, he's still a high school student, hasn't graduated from high school yet, that I know of, and this just surprises me that he's got this biggest contract, and I think the second place one was like $2.4 million.
Well, this is before he's even played a snap. Imagine
Right,
if
yeah.
but imagine if when he starts playing snaps, and then on top of that, imagine if he starts looking incredible. If he even looks like a fraction of Peyton and or Eli, that NIL number
Mhm.
will just continue to go up.
Yeah.
And then he will get drafted and make even more money.
But I mean, a 17-year-old kid with $3.8 million sitting just out of reach.
You know how many
right now?
17-year-olds are on Twitch and YouTube making that kind of money? They're all over the place.
Well, these are gamers that do nothing but play video games all day, probably.
Wow, you say that like that's a bad thing. These
It
kids are
is a
getting
bad
paid
thing. Get a
millions of
life, you
dollars.
nerds.
They are, and they're making millions of dollars while you're sitting here in front of a microphone making butt kiss.
Get a real job. Give me my fries with my Big Mac.
Wow. Wow, old man Randy just showing his true colors over there. How's
Yeah,
retirement treating you?
yeah, you little whippersnapper.
Yeah, there it is.
All right.
Randy is the epitome of yelling at clouds and get off my lawn.
I'd love for you to get on my lawn with a lawnmower sometime.
You got a big yard. I hate doing your
It's a
yard.
rider. Come on. It's like driving. All right, let's move on to today's birthdays. April 18th, kicker Pete Gogolak turns 81 years old today. He played his college football at Cornell. He was selected in the 12th round of the 1964 American Football League draft by the Buffalo Bills. He played 11 pro seasons. He was with the Bills for 2 seasons in 64 and 65, and he was with the New York Giants from 66 to 74. He was the first soccer style kicker in the NFL. Now, there's a lot of controversy about this because at the time that he was signed with the Bills, the NFL and the AFL had a kind of an agreement because they weren't, technically merged yet. And they had like a gentleman's agreement that they were not going to sign players from the other league. Sure, they were fighting for new players, but if somebody was already signed, they would not go out and try to, get them to come over to the team until this happened,
Hmm.
until the Giants went over and convinced him to sign with them.
Hmm.
And so that was a real big deal at the time. So, but yeah, Pete Gogolak, happy birthday, 81 years old today. And then we've got three obituaries today. This is where we take a moment and honor those who made the world of football a better place. The first obituary is that of Tracy Johnson, a running back in the NFL for 8 seasons. He's passed away from cancer at the age of 56. Johnson played college football at Clemson and was selected in the 10th round of the 1989 NFL Draft by the Houston Oilers. He played for Houston in 1989. He also played for the Atlanta Falcons from 1990 to 91. He was with the Seattle Seahawks from 92 to 95, and he finished his playing career with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 1996.
All right, our next obituary is that of Chris Smith, a defensive end in the NFL for 8 seasons, has passed away at the age of 31. The cause of death has not been immediately released. Smith played college football at Arkansas and was selected in the 5th round of the 2014 NFL Draft by the Jacksonville Jaguars. He played in Jacksonville from 2004 to 2016, or 2014 to 2016, excuse me. He was then traded to the Cincinnati Bengals, where he played in 2017. He also played for the Cleveland Browns from 2018 to 2019, the Las Vegas Raiders in 2020, and the Houston Texans in 2021. He was recently playing for the Seattle Sea Dragons of the XFL. Um,
Yeah, I
just
did.
heartbreaking.
Yeah, I did not know that he had been with the XFL. And when I found the story this morning, it kind of mentioned it in passing at the end of the article, but I wasn't sure, and I looked around for other uh, articles to confirm that he actually was playing in the XFL, and I finally did. One article said he had 5 tackles with the uh, with the Sea
Sea
Dragons.
Dragons, yeah.
So and the team put out a press release just a little while ago.
Yeah, like right before we hit record.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I hadn't seen anything from the team either. That's why I wasn't sure if it was true or not, or if
Yeah.
somebody had gotten their facts wrong. So I didn't want to say that. But then, like you said, the league and the team both put out press releases about that. So very sad to hear. I'm 31 years old. Man, I don't know what the circumstances were. We'll have to wait and find out what was going on there. But anyway, our final obituary is that of Mark Arneson, a linebacker in the NFL for 9 seasons. He's passed away at the age of 73. Arneson played college football at Arizona and was selected in the 2nd round of the 1972 NFL Draft by the St. Louis Cardinals. He played his entire career with the Cardinals from 1972 to 1980.
Yeah, and what a appropriate transition to talk about another Cardinal who played his entire career with them, because you wanted to bring up that we did something very unique
Yeah,
this week on the
yeah.
YouTube channel.
Last weekend, we went to our first XFL game, and on our way home, we stopped at 2 cemeteries in St. Louis, and we found the final resting place of two, not one, but two Pro Football Hall of Famers. Um, Larry Wilson, who played his entire career
Yep.
with the uh, St. Louis Cardinals, and Jimmy Conzelman, who played for 5 different teams in the 1920s.
He was a player, owner, coach. He
Yeah,
did it all.
yep. And they were both buried in neighboring cemeteries in St. Louis, and we found both of their graves. Needed a little help on the first one, especially, but yeah. And so we've got a video out there now on our YouTube channel, and it's called "Have Grave Will Travel."
Yeah, it's
And
a series we're hoping to
we've been
do.
talking about this for a long time. These two graves were number 46 and number 47 on my list. So I've been to a lot of graves. You've been to some of them with me, not all of them, but like we've been to see George Gipp's grave. We've been to see Newt Rockney's grave together. A few others. I'm not sure which ones, but we were on this trip and we found out that there were two Hall of Famers buried in town, and we did a video. You did a very nice job of cutting the footage of us in the cemetery as well as highlights from both of these guys' careers. So everybody should go check that out. It's on our YouTube channel. It's called Have Grave Will Travel.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else before we get into this week's history lesson?
No news, but I mean, other than the news of this podcast, where remember earlier when I said we're gonna have to try to stuff all this in under an hour?
Uh huh.
We cracked the hour mark, and
I
we haven't
figured.
even reached the history
I figured
lesson
we
yet.
probably did.
And it's a long history lesson this week, so why don't you tell us or set that up before we send everybody over to that?
Well, because of the start of the new USFL season, I thought it was be a good thing to look back on the 1983 to 1985 USFL. So that's our history lesson this week. The history of the 1983 to 1985 USFL. The United States Football League of today is a rebirth of the league that existed for 3 seasons from 1983 to 1985. While the new USFL is looking to be a feeder league to the NFL and the CFL, the original USFL was competing against the NFL for the best players they could find. The original USFL was the brainchild of David Dixon. He was an art and antiques dealer in New Orleans. He announced the formation of the league on May 11th, 1982. The USFL played in the spring, allowing many teams to play in NFL stadiums. The league kicked off in 1983 with 12 teams: the Michigan Panthers, Chicago Blitz, Boston Breakers, Birmingham Stallions, Arizona Wranglers, New Jersey Generals, Denver Gold, Philadelphia Stars, Los Angeles Express, Washington Federals, Tampa Bay Bandits, and the Oakland Invaders. The league played an 18-game schedule, mostly by NFL rules, but there were a few differences. For one, the USFL had a 2-point conversion option after a touchdown was scored. The NFL did not adopt the 2-point conversion until 1994. The USFL also implemented an instant replay system in 1985 to assist officials on the field. Coaches used a red challenge flag to dispute a call on the field. A replay official in the booth would look at the play and decide whether to overturn or uphold the call. It would be another 14 years before the NFL implemented instant replay on a full-time basis in 1999. The 1983 championship game was played at Mile High Stadium in Denver between the Michigan Panthers and the Philadelphia Stars. Michigan won the game 24-22. In 1984, 6 more teams were added: the Pittsburgh Maulers, Jacksonville Bulls, San Antonio Gunslingers, Houston Gamblers, Oklahoma Outlaws, and Memphis Showboats. The second USFL championship game was played in Tampa, Florida, and saw the Philadelphia Stars defeat the Arizona Wranglers 23-3. A month later, the Stars and the Tampa Bay Bandits traveled to London, England, and played an exhibition game at Wembley Stadium. The Stars won that game 24-21. Billionaire Donald Trump bought the New Jersey Generals team in 1984. The USFL had been doing okay in the spring, but Trump wanted the league to play in the fall in direct competition with the NFL. In anticipation of the move to the fall, some teams either moved, merged, or folded before the 1985 season. The Michigan Panthers merged with the Oakland Invaders. The Philadelphia Stars became the Baltimore Stars. The Washington Federals became the Orlando Renegades. The New Orleans Breakers became the Portland Breakers, and the Oklahoma Outlaws merged with the Arizona Wranglers to become the Arizona Outlaws. The Chicago Blitz and the Pittsburgh Maulers both folded, leaving the league with 14 teams. The third and final USFL championship game was played at Giants Stadium and saw the Baltimore Stars defeat the Oakland Invaders 28-24. The USFL then sued the NFL in district court, claiming that they had a monopoly on professional football in the United States. The trial began in May of 1986. It lasted for 44 days, and in the end, the jury sided with the USFL. The league was hoping to receive $500 million in damages, but the jury awarded them just $1. By law, that amount was automatically tripled to $3. The USFL folded soon after. In 1990, after 4 years of appeals in court and with interest added on, the NFL wrote a check for $3.76 to the USFL. It was never cashed. A 1986 fall USFL schedule had been released while the trial was going on, with 8 teams, but that season was never played. The Baltimore Stars, New Jersey Generals, Memphis Showboats, Arizona Outlaws, Birmingham Stallions, Orlando Renegades, Tampa Bay Bandits, and Jacksonville Bulls were the teams that would have played in 1986. Many well-known NFL players played in the USFL, including 4 Heisman Trophy winners: quarterback Doug Flutie, running back Herschel Walker, running back Mike Rozier, and running back Archie Griffin. Other players included wide receiver Anthony Carter, quarterback Bobby Hebert, linebacker Ray Bentley, quarterback Brian Sipe, and quarterback Doug Williams, to name a few. Steve Young, Jim Kelly, Reggie White, and Sam Mills, who also played in the USFL, all went on to become members of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Many well-known coaches also spent time in the USFL. Steve Spurrier, George Allen, Jim Mora, Jack Pardee, Lee Corso, Chuck Fairbanks, and Marv Levy. Levy is also a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. If the USFL had remained playing in the spring, many people believe it would have been around for many years to follow. Ironically, thanks to the USFL winning a lawsuit against the NFL, we will just never know.
Yeah, I wanted to keep calling this the original USFL, but as it turns out, there's actually a USFL that predates the USFL we all think about from the 80s.
Yeah, I saw that, and I don't have any information on it, so eventually that'll probably be another history lesson.
The original
when I when I do
USFL.
go back and find out. I think it was in the 1940s,
Hmm.
is what I read. So, yeah, we were going to call this the original USFL, but technically, I guess it's not. So,
Yeah.
um,
Just to avoid confusion later
right,
on down the road.
but yeah, the team names and everything, logos are from the 83 to 85 seasons of the USFL. So that's what they're using now. Okay, let's wrap this thing up here. Upcoming events calendar. Thursday, April 27th, the NFL Draft in Kansas City. Tuesday, May 2nd, the CFL Draft takes place up in Toronto. May 13th, the XFL Championship game in San Antonio. Will those Brahmas be playing in the XFL Championship in their home stadium?
I'm going to go out on a limb and say probably not.
Yeah, probably not. Let's see. Friday, May 22nd, the CFL preseason begins. Thursday, June 8th, the CFL regular season begins. Boy, I can't wait for that. And finally on our list, Thursday, August 3rd, the Pro Football Hall of Fame game in Canton, Ohio between the Cleveland Browns and the New York Jets.
Oh, man.
So jam-packed couple of months coming up here.
Yep.
No rest for the weary. We're going to be everywhere.
We are, especially, so we got, for us personally, we got a PFRA thing this upcoming weekend.
Yep.
And then the weekend after that is the NFL draft. So
Yep.
we'll be plopping down on the couch to watch NFL draft coverage all weekend.
Yep.
And then we'll be going to Detroit for a USFL game at Ford Field. Very excited about
the day
that.
after the draft.
Day after the draft. It'll be crazy.
Oh, man.
It'll be crazy, but hey,
get your sleep now while you can.
I can't even get that. Shoot. But I mean, what a good time to be football fans. You know, we market ourselves as finding football year round, and when you can actually live it, it's exhausting at certain times. But
it's
it
a lot
is
of
so
fun, but yes, it is exhausting.
There's so much, and depending on if you have to travel like we did, it's so worth it. Though I mean,
oh yeah,
road trips or even just plopping down on the couch and watching, having simulcasting the XFL and USFL on your
Yeah.
TV at the same
Get them on.
time.
Got one game on recall, and you're watching one. Oh, commercial. Go to the
Either
XFL game.
picture in picture or side by side,
Yep.
whatever you got to do.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun to be a football fan.
yeah.
All right. Well, that's all the time we've got for this week. We've gone so long this week.
Man, and we didn't even talk about the arena football stuff we were going to do, but that is going to be a video later.
Yeah, we'll be talking more about arena football in the days to come. Let's see. If you learned something during this podcast about the incredible amount of diversity that exists in the world of football, then we have done our job, which we're not getting paid for. Visit our website at theworldoffootball.com for news, links, upcoming events, original articles, videos, and more. Our email address is info@theworldoffootball.com.
Send your money to me because I'm not getting paid for this, apparently. I was misled. You can also like The World of Football on Facebook at TWOF Kalamazoo. You can also follow us on Twitter. The address is at TWOF Kalamazoo. New episodes of this podcast are posted on Tuesdays and are available on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and you can find the full audio version of the show on our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/@the World of Football. Easy way to find it. Or you can just go in the search bar and look for The World of Football Kalamazoo. You should be able to find us thanks to that nifty World of Football logo we got out there.
Yep.
And trust us, should be able to find it because it's got an American style football and not a soccer ball. Those other World of Footballs are imitators.
That's right.
We are often duplicated, but never, ever with the same amount of charm that Randy and I have. Let's see where else I went off script here. We are also on Amazon Music. Simply ask your Alexa device to play the World of Football podcast, and you will hear the dulcet tones and bickering of Randy and Adam Snow in your ear holes. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, that's up to you. Also, feel free to subscribe, rate, review, give us a like on every single one of those platforms. We love engagement. We love, interacting with everybody. We try to interact with everybody. Because it's actually been so much fun, especially in the comments of the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Finding out all these people who, have been to the cemetery we've been, went to.
Yeah.
A guy who worked there.
Yeah.
People who are in some of the places we visited, people who've been at the games we've been to. It's been so cool and so fun interacting with you guys in this space. And, just know that you're not alone out there, and enjoying all this stuff because you got us. I'm trying to think. I mean, I went really off script here.
Let us lead the way.
Okay, find a way to work that in. Let us lead the way of your football journey. Leave a comment. Let us know what you think, and please come be a part of not only the football journey but the football conversation.
And remember, folks, some people may love football more than we do, but nobody, and I mean nobody, loves more football than we do. Until next time. But we'll try and do a better job and spend less time talking.
And try to get it under an hour, because that's Randy's favorite thing.
Yeah. I'm Randy Snow.
And I'm Adam Snow, who likes to go on tangents quite often. Beginning of the show, middle of the show, and at the very end of the show, till Randy tells me to cut off the microphone.
Yeah, you're the reason we went over an hour this week.
And you're the reason I drink.
We'll see you all next week.